Hey Harmonizers, in this video we're going to do a little bit of showing King off. So he's been training for the Thoroughbred makeover in freestyle and trail. He is a 3-year-old, and when I last sticked him he was 16 hands. I figured I'd show a little bit of kind of a walk around of what he's looking like right now for the Thoroughbred makeover. They have to be a minimum of 4 on the body scale, so we've been giving him lots of oil and alfalfa pellets, and we just recently started him on beet pulp as well. We want to make sure we've got some extra chubbiness as we head into the Thoroughbred makeover. Right now I feel like he's actually looking pretty good in this video. You guys can let me know what he looks like in the comments for you guys. And I figured I'd show you guys some of his riding work the first time that I rode him in a bit, as well as doing some free jumping. So most of the time when I ride him, I use this bitless side pull that you see me riding in here. And I think this is actually my first time riding him in my outdoor ring. My outdoor ring is smaller than my indoor ring, and I like the shade of our indoor ring and get kind of spoiled in there. So we really don't come out here very often. So this is me first getting on him in the outdoor ring, and you can see he's a little bit, forward and kind of raring to go a little bit, but not in a crazy out of control way, just in a little bit of a forward looky way. And in this video, I tried to balance kind of showing that he is good most of the time. So there's like lots of footage of him just kind of going around a little bit, but at the same time not making a ridiculously long video. So I wanted to show like him going in the ring for the first time, kind of going around. Here's a little cute change of direction. And then I'll, show you a bunch of other clips of him moving around, but not being, too much of just boring flat work going all around. Here's a little bit of his trot pulls. I'll show you guys some of his leg yielding as well. So here's a little bit of his trot leg yields that he's working on. He's been doing some trot leg yielding as well as some trotting shoulder in, which I'll show you guys a little bit later on. Here's a better view of some of his trot leg yield work. He's doing pretty nicely there. We're working on getting a little bit straighter through there rather than leading with the shoulder, but that's going pretty well. And a lot of the time I ride him bridleless too, so this is kind of different to ride him with the tack. We kind of balance training for freestyle, training for trail, as well as just doing a bunch of other skills to see what he would be good with as a potential future. He's such a cool horse to watch. I think he's got a lot of natural athletic ability. I'll show you guys when we get to the canter his lead changes and his counter canter. He's just such an eager horse, lots of work ethic. So here we go into a counter canter, and you'll see I'll ride him on that right lead canter and then ask for that flying lead change. And that's our first canter of the ride, and looking pretty good. And he's got such a lopey canter. I love that canter. It's just kind of da-dote, da-dote, da-dote. It's very nice to sit to. I'll show you guys his counter canter the other way. We'll hold him in the counter canter for a bit, and then I'll show you a flying lead change as well in this direction. So he does really nicely. There he thought he had to do a flying lead change, and I said, no, hold the counter canter. It was just kind of tricky going by the gate. And then here's the flying lead change to the right lead on purpose there instead. As I come around by the gate, you'll see why it was confusing for him, because there's kind of like a part in my arena that juts out a little bit there, so you have to almost do like a super sharp turn to be able to hold that canter going around, so a little bit harder to do on a counter canter. And then here's some more counter canter on the right lead. Ride that. You'll be able to see what I mean about the ring as I come around the corner. And then we'll ride that for a little bit, and then we'll pop the lead change on purpose again in a second here. So he's just super handy. He's definitely one of the nicest thoroughbreds that I've gotten to work with in terms of his natural athleticism, because I really don't ride him all that much. I would say I aim to ride 3 times a week is usually what I'm going for. And sometimes he only ends up with twice a week being ridden, but 3 times is usually my goal of what to ride him. And that includes going to a show or whatever on the weekend. And then this is my first time riding him in a bit. So when I first started King off the track, I did a OTTB Liberty restart, and that's in our Harmony Horsemanship Academy. If you go to harmonyhorsemanshipacademy.com, I did all of his first rides with nothing, no neck rope, no halter, all of his sessions too. I didn't use anything. It was completely at Liberty, and I got him going walk, trot, figure eights and circles and things like that. And then when I brought him home, I just started bitless And so this is him in a bit, just because I know lots of people would ask, like, can he go in the bit? Because you need a bit to do dressage or to do hunters, and so different things. So this is him riding in a bit, but I've stayed out of his mouth just because he is so soft and light and responsive, and I haven't needed one for the competitions that I've been doing, so it just didn't feel like it was an important thing to do. I don't think that bits are bad. I think that if a horse is emotional, sometimes people rely on a heavier bit when really the horse needs more emotional control work. And so I like to do that instead, because the horse's mouth is a very sensitive place. We want to make sure we've got good hands. We want to make sure that we're riding softly and that the horse is ready for that. So I have no problem putting a bit in his mouth to do things like this, because he's ready for that. And you can see he's riding really nicely, considering he has not worn a bit since he came off the racetrack. This is pretty darn impressive, I think, that he's going around looking really nice and soft in that. And then I'll continue to train him bitless, just because he rides so nicely bitless in the side pull. I think it's a great thing to show people that, you know, you don't need a bit for control. It's more about the connection with the horse and your body signals and your body cues, and you don't need to have that per se. And you can save the bit for having more refined communication, which is what it was originally intended for, and can be used because it's such a sensitive place in the horse's mouth. You can use the bit to signal different movements to the horse even more invisibly, because you don't need a lot of cue for that. And here I'm just showing you guys some of the transitions that he's working on, some of his little go, little stop, doing some halt canters, which I haven't done a lot of. I definitely should do a few more of those before we get out to the Thoroughbred makeover, because there was that was a little bit of a sloppy transition. He had a couple steps of trot in there and then down to our halt again, so it's a little bit heavy, but for the most part pretty nice. And you can see he was stopping square as well. There's a little bit of his nice little trot going on, but he felt absolutely lovely in the bit, which is really nice. Here's a little bit of a leg yield using the bit instead. Not as clean as when we were going bitless, probably just a little bit of cue confusion going on there. And then this is doing a little bit of his trot shoulder in. So here's a little bit to the left, and then I'll switch him around, and then here's some trot shoulder in to the right. And then I stop in time for the camera there. But that kind of shows you he's doing really well moving off of the leg and doing some lateral stuff. So this is super cute. This is the one and only time I have ever free jumped King. This was his first time coming through the chute. I just wanted to show you guys how I made it a fun game for him of come through the chute, come to the end, and then get your cookie. And then I'll take you through a few of his more rounds and even show you how he ends up going up over 4 feet like it's absolutely nothing. So here's asking him to go around, and you'll notice as I do this free jumping with him that I don't actually ever use a stick or anything with him. It's just a fun game to him going around and over the jumps. And this is the one and only time I free jumped him, because he is still 3 years old, so he doesn't turn 4 until next year. This was kind of funny. He was like, "Would you like the pedestal?" And I'm like, "No, I do not want the pedestal. Let's go do the jumping chute." And so because he's only 3, I've been very careful not to do too much jumping with him. I think as a 3-year-old, if they do one free jumping session like he is today, I think all said and told, he went through the chute maybe 10 times, if I remember correctly. I don't think that's gonna, hurt them or have a big impact on them. And you can kind of see what the horse is capable of, as well as teach them their striding a little bit without doing any damage through their legs. But you definitely want to be careful with a young horse. Their knees aren't fully closed yet, and so the impact from landing from the fence could be not something that you want to repeat several times for sure. So I thought, well, we'll do it once, we'll see how he does, we'll get a look at his natural athletic ability, but then it's not something that I plan on repeating or doing again with him. Because he's just simply not old enough yet, and that's just not worth doing. So you can see he's pretty playful coming through the jumps. He tends to get quite springy going through, And even though sometimes he doesn't do the bounces correctly the first time, the bounces are there to help him figure out his striding, so he has a nice clean one stride to the bigger vertical. And even though sometimes he doesn't do those perfectly well, he still manages to figure out his feet. Like there, see, he didn't come over super nice, but he still manages to figure out his feet to get up and over the vertical. Even though he knocked it there, he still kind of sorted himself out and was able to pick himself up enough. And then here's him coming around again the next time. It kind of comes into the little bounces. He just jumps that 4-foot vertical like it's absolutely nothing. And then we do it again here. Really nice big effort there. So easy for him. He's like, yeah, sure, it's just like a walk in the park. So I was like, okay, yep, you definitely have the natural ability that I thought you had. He's going to come over and get a cookie, and let me know what you guys think of Mr. King.